The message arrived on a Monday, as the world below bustled with its usual routines, unaware that everything was about to change. In the quiet hum of the control room, a signal blinked to life. An anomaly at first, then a revelation. It was a faint cry from the void, a whisper that had traveled for centuries across the endless dark, carrying with it the hopes of a distant world. Our deep space arrays caught it, a plea for help from a dying world called Xylos, a planet whose name we'd never heard yet whose desperation was unmistakable. The Zealands, a peaceful, artistic race, faced extinction from a creeping sickness. Their cities, once vibrant with color and music, had grown silent as the illness spread. Their message, full of desperation and hope, sent shockwaves through Global Space Command. For the first time, we were not alone, and someone needed us. For decades, we'd listened for signs of life, scanning the heavens for a voice in the darkness. Now, that voice had found us. Now, we had won, on the brink of vanishing. The weight of that realization settled over us like a shadow. Debates raged. Should we intervene? Was it our place to answer a call from so far away, to risk everything for strangers? Could we even reach them in time? The distance was unimaginable, the odds stacked against us. The risks were immense, the unknowns greater still. Every calculation revealed new dangers, new mysteries lurking in the void. Yet the Xylan message included fragments of their science and culture, painting a picture of crystalline forests shimmering under alien suns and vast oceans of methane teeming with life unlike anything on Earth. The Zealands had no weapons, no concept of war, making their plight even more tragic. Their society was built on harmony, not conquest. Their plea was not for soldiers, but for saviors. Ultimately, humanity united, setting aside differences in the face of a cosmic call for compassion. We could not let another intelligent species disappear, not when we had the power to try and help. A team was chosen, not diplomats or famous scientists, but specialists for impossible problems. Engineers, medics, linguists, and explorers, each with a history of defying the odds. They were the most dangerous humans alive, not for violence, but for their refusal to accept defeat, for their relentless drive to solve the unsolvable. They would be our answer to the Xylan's call, carrying with them the hopes of two worlds. The mission was a gamble, but it was a test of our character, a chance to prove that empathy could reach across the stars. We would send a small group, each with a unique skill set, each prepared to face the unknown for the sake of another world. They were the ones we called when all else failed, the last hope in the face of the impossible. The fate of Xylos, and perhaps our own humanity, hung in the balance as we prepared to answer the call from afar. Dangerous meant something different to Global Space Command. These were outliers, unpredictable, relentless, ingenious. Dr. Aris Thorne, a radical biologist, saw life as a puzzle to be solved, no matter the rules broken. Major Ava Rostova, a legendary soldier, was a strategist who never panicked, always advanced. John Lee, an engineer, could turn scraps into miracles, improvising solutions no one else could imagine. Each was dangerous to the impossible, to the status quo. Thorne's mind birthed impossible solutions. Rostova's resolve turned fear into action. John's adaptability made her a master of the unexpected. Together, they were humanity's last best hope. They would face the unknown, not with caution, but with audacity. The Odyssey's journey ended above a wounded world, its hull reflecting the pale, sickly light of Xylos below. The crew peered through reinforced windows, taking in the planet's haunting beauty and the scars that marred its once vibrant surface. Xylos, once beautiful, was scarred by the blight, dark patches spreading across its surface. The devastation was clear. Forests turned to wasteland, oceans stagnant, air heavy with decay. The planet's wounds told a silent story of loss and desperation, a warning to all who gazed upon it. Jian Li landed the craft near a rare green valley, a last refuge of life amid the devastation. The valley's fragile greenery stood in stark contrast to the surrounding desolation, a beacon of hope in a dying world. Stepping onto Xylos felt surreal, gravity light, air thin, silence profound. Every footstep stirred ancient dust, and the oppressive quiet pressed in from all sides, broken only by the hum of their equipment. Dr. Thorne immediately began sampling soil and air, his mind racing to understand the enemy. Each reading, each sample was a clue in the puzzle of the blight, and he worked with a sense of urgency, knowing time was against them. Major Rostova scanned the horizon, establishing a defensive perimeter, her calm a source of security. She watched for threats both seen and unseen, her training and instincts keeping the team safe in this hostile environment. The enemy was invisible, a plague, not an army. It crept through the soil and air, a silent adversary that could not be fought with weapons alone. The team's skills were tested from the first moment. Thorn's curiosity, Rostova's vigilance, Jan's precision, each member brought something vital, their strengths interlocking like pieces of a greater whole. All were vital in this alien landscape, where every decision could mean survival or disaster. The terrain was unforgiving, and the unknowns were many. The mission had begun, and the stakes were clear. The fate of Xylos, and perhaps more, rested on their shoulders. They were alone, facing a world on the edge. Every action mattered, every moment counted, and there was no turning back. Failure was not an option. The future depended on what they would do next. The Zealands called it the Whispering Blight, a plague with a psychic edge. The team heard faint whispers, voices of despair, eroding hope and will. The blight was a silicon-based organism, spreading like a fungus, absorbing information, targeting life itself. It petrified the living, turning forests to stone, releasing spores to spread further. The psychological assault grew stronger near the blight. Jan doubted her skills. Rostova felt exhaustion beyond the physical. Only Thorn, focused on the science, resisted the whispers. He realized the blight's whispers were a defense, meant to break resistance. The blight was intelligent, adaptive, and relentless. The planet was being mummified, hope crushed by despair. The team's resolve was tested at every step. They needed a plan that attacked both the blight's biology and its psychological warfare. Time was running out. The Xylans emerged. Tall, shimmering, eyes full of sorrow. Their presence was both awe-inspiring and heartbreaking, as if the weight of centuries pressed down on their shoulders. The air seemed to hum with tension, every movement deliberate, every glance filled with unspoken pain. Their leader, Xylar, greeted the team with cautious hope, but little faith in success. His voice trembled with the burden of responsibility, and his words were careful, as if afraid to offer false promises. The blight's whispers had broken many Zealands. They waited for the end. Despair hung over their city like a shadow, and hope was a rare, fragile thing. Dr. Thorn proposed a bold three-part plan, overwhelm the blight with coordinated attacks, exploiting its adaptability. The strategy was daring, requiring perfect timing and unity between human and Zealand forces. Each team member would play a crucial role. Their unique skills and backgrounds would be tested as never before, forging them into a single, determined unit. The plan was risky. If it failed, it could doom Xylos faster. The consequences of a misstep were unthinkable, and the pressure was immense. The Xylans were horrified. Fighting back was alien to their culture. Violence had never been their way, and the thought of open conflict shook them to their core. Rostova explained humanity's refusal to surrender, the need to fight for survival. She spoke of resilience, of hope in the face of impossible odds, and the power of unity. The Xylans, seeing the team's determination, reluctantly agreed. Their decision was not made lightly, but desperation and inspiration mingled in their eyes. The mission would challenge everything the Xylans believed. It would force them to confront their deepest fears and question their ancient traditions. Success meant saving a world. Failure meant extinction. The stakes could not have been higher, and every heart beat with anxious anticipation. The team prepared, knowing the next steps would define their legacy. Every gesture, every word carried the weight of history. The time for action had come. There was no turning back, only the path forward into the unknown. The fate of Xylos rested on a dangerous plan, and the courage of those willing to risk everything for hope. Dr. Thorn targeted the blight's hunger for complexity. He engineered a super plant, fast-growing, irresistible to the blight. The plant absorbed a harmless chemical, setting a trap. Thorn's real weapon was deception. Lure the blight to consume the plant and the chemical within. With Zealand guidance, he planted the seeds at the blight's edge. The super plant thrived, drawing the blight's attention. The whispers shifted from despair to hunger. The blight's network converged on the trap. Thorn's strategy was in motion. The first phase was working. The blight was being baited. The next move would decide everything. Major Rostova's task was direct. Deliver the trigger for Thorn's trap. She prepared an explosive charge to be placed at the Blight's densest point. The Xylans watched, disturbed by the idea of destruction. Rostova explained, "Bravery is choosing to face fear for a greater good." She piloted a hoverskiff into the heart of the Blight, whispers clawing at her mind. Doubt and dread pressed in, but she focused on her mission. At the target, she dropped the charge with precision. A wave of psychic despair nearly overwhelmed her, but she fought through. She escaped as the explosion detonated, triggering the next phase. Her courage had delivered the catalyst. The team's plan moved forward. The battle for Xylos reached its climax. Jian Li's role was to turn the explosion's sonic pulse into a planet-wide weapon. The Odyssey's comms weren't built for this, but Jian improvised. She rewired, repurposed, and coded on the fly, building a massive amplifier from spare parts. The Xylans watched in awe. Her adaptability was unlike anything they'd seen. As the explosion's pulse hit, Jian captured and amplified it. The ship strained but held. A powerful, inaudible wave swept across Xylos. The sonic frequency shattered the Blight's structure at a microscopic level. Jian had turned a radio into a weapon of salvation. The plan's final phase was complete. The fate of Xylos was decided in a burst of ingenuity. Humanity's adaptability had changed the course of our world. The impossible had been achieved. The sonic pulse ended the Blight instantly, whispers gone, petrified forests crumbling to dust. The air cleared, hope returned. The Xylans emerged, disbelief turning to joy. Xyla thanked the team, recognizing the lesson. Sometimes peace requires action. The humans' dangerous qualities, cleverness, bravery, adaptability, had saved the world. The Xylans learned that to protect what's precious, you must sometimes fight. The Odyssey prepared to leave as Xylos began to heal. Green shoots broke through dust. Hope flourished. The humans had redefined what it meant to be dangerous. They were not destroyers, but saviors, forces of change. As the ship ascended, a new understanding united two worlds. Xylos was reborn, and humanity's legacy was written in the stars. The call from afar had been answered, with hope, courage, and the will to defy the impossible.